here. All right, welcome Barton to the Biohacker Babes podcast. Thanks for joining us today. How you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me on. Just excited to be here and having a great start to the week today. So yeah, happy
Happy
to
Monday.
chat about anything that's helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, so
Yeah.
preview, we're talking about minerals today. And it's funny, the last time I saw you was at Burning Man, which is a place where you really need some minerals. So this
Really
feels
do.
appropriate. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of us know that minerals are vital for really maintaining optimal health. Hopefully, kind of curious from the audience how much
Yeah.
we know about minerals. But there's
Right.
a lot of confusion, a lot of myths around how to get
So
them, where they
yeah.
are, why we're deficient in them. So we're going to go into what minerals are, where do we get
Yeah.
them, but also looking at minerals in the body so we can have a deeper understanding of what's out of balance, perhaps why we're experiencing certain health challenges. So you have a hair mineral tissue analysis that we're going to talk about in part 2. But we're curious from you, how did you get so interested in minerals?
And yeah, well, there's so much to say there. I just want to add to what you said first, Lauren, and say that so many people, and I think myself included, about 12 years ago, thought I knew a decent amount about minerals, or thought like, oh, there's not maybe there's not as much to learn there, and there's some other areas more important or something. But what the reality I just want to give everyone is you're about to learn a bunch of things that you've never heard before. And the promise I'll make is that if you stay with us through this whole podcast, the things that you'll learn today will be something you use every single day for the rest of your life. It can, will, and should be something that you're thinking about every day, just in the same way that you're thinking about sunlight. It's that important. In fact, I would say those are two most important things to supplement, full stop. And the reason why I would say it's not even an opinion, if you understand the science, and this sort of answers your question on like why I got into it, is I was studying chemical engineering, and I already was working with the periodic table a lot. Like one of the first classes when you really get into your major is organic chemistry, which is, if you've ever seen Good Will Hunting, not an easy class. And so that really separates the wheat from the chaff there. And the thing with minerals is they are the periodic table, which means everything you've ever eaten or touched is a complex combination of minerals. And the truth is you don't absorb them very well. And the truth is the purported experts in the field seem to know very little and seem to sort of regurgitate the best information. And there's not a whole lot of innovation in the space, or there hasn't been. And I realized, to fully answer your question, that this was a huge issue for my mother as I was trying to get her well. I was 22 at the time. By the time I turned 24, her health would decline, even though she was retired and low stress, and I would say otherwise healthy. She went down the path of taking the wrong things, including a lot of calcium, which almost none of us need to supplement calcium, virtually none of us. And it's in so many multivitamins. It's so ubiquitous in water and things. And it's in a very poor, and this is a keyword, ratio, which is something we look at in hair analysis. And there's only a handful of companies in the world that seem to understand how to interpret a hair analysis, which is something we can do later, and we do more of that than anyone. And we have our own kit and everything. So I got very passionate about it because unfortunately her health declined to the point where she had an aneurysm after having myasthenia gravis for years, having thymus gland removed, and she actually, by the time I was 24, I got a call Sunday afternoon from both sisters. I was taking a nap. Before I even checked my phone, I knew something was wrong. And sure enough, she had an aneurysm and she never woke up. And that actually can be traced back to calcium overload, which makes all the arteries and all the pathways, all the any sort of pathway like an artery, or forgetting the word is so obvious, but when you have for example, blood vessels in your brain. A simple blood vessel should be able to curve like a hose and not kink. And when it kinks because of the rigidity of the calcium, not only does that reflect your personality and behavior, you become rigid in your behavior, you become, non-flexible in your behavior, but it causes things like aneurysms where that kinks and then pops, cracks, and you're bleeding internally in the brain. You can have, heart-related issues. And what I've come to find is that supplementing minerals that you actually absorb is a key way of reversing all of these things that are fundamentally what make us up. The Royal Society of Chemistry says that you can make a human body, actually make a human body with like 69 elements. And they weighed out the proportions, and there's about 6 that do most of the work. And then they even took it as far to say, well, how much would it take to like buy all of these and assemble, which is a fun experiment. And although it's not that simple, and obviously we're so much more than that, we're a soul and acting on possibly multiple different planes at the same time. But regardless of whatever any of your beliefs, what we know for sure factually is that we're this complex organization of elements. And when people talk about hormones, which we can talk about, they're really talking about elements, and the hormones being low or high or out of whack, quote unquote, is just a result of toxicity of the modern world, which is also defended by minerals. So minerals play offense and defense is something that I say in my book that'll be out in a few months. And it just became obvious to me that it's a lot like gravity. It's that important. And when we get it wrong, it's not as evident as being on a 60th floor rooftop and stepping off the edge as gravity would be. But the results are still the same. You still have that aneurysm if you don't understand what you're doing, if you're not testing, if you're not absorbing what you're taking, and keyword ratios again, if those ratios are off.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so sorry about your mom. Thank you for
And
sharing
I
that
had,
with our audience.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't mention it, but I had a ton of my own focus issues and mood issues and like just constant like IBS and things like that were all related to depletion of minerals, thanks to my biggest mistake I ever made, which was Adderall / Vyvanse. And I have a firm belief that no one needs that. What they really need is cellular energy and sunlight and moving and and just application of the energy that they have, and just like a good educational system. But the school system isn't built that way. It's built to make cattle essentially. And
Yeah.
so that's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But yes, thank
Well,
you. So
yeah.
basically every health condition, from like thyroid issues to like Crohn's or IBS or brain fog, just as a general term. I mean, all of that's covered. Basically, any issue you've ever encountered is in some way directly related to mineral deficiency and can directly be solved, at least in part, through getting the right ratios and levels in and getting metals out of the body. Heavy metals, that is.
Yeah, the metal issue too. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, minerals, it just seems like it's such a foundation. And I think people are jumping to a lot of these fancy, expensive supplements trying to solve their problems. But if you're not looking at minerals first, it's like that's such a waste. So maybe we can cover like a couple of the reasons why we're deficient in minerals. So like our food supply sucks. We have heavy metals, we have toxic exposure, high stress. Anything else you would add?
Medications.
Okay,
Yeah,
medications.
specifically about the food, for anyone that doesn't know what you're talking about there, it's the soil, the content in the soil in most areas around the world is very, very low, because when you mine, for example, take bananas. Like if you're planting the same crop of bananas year after year after year after year, you're pulling what should be in the banana or should be in the potato out of the soil, because that's what that is good for, right? And
Right.
that's what gives it also its taste and its flavor. So when you're lucky enough to eat something from a rich soil, you go, wow, I can't believe it. I didn't realize I haven't tasted tomato or potato or
Yeah.
just
I had
like the
I had a
richness of
banana
a
in
steak.
Hawaii recently,
Yeah,
and I was like, this is what a banana is supposed to taste like. You don't get
exactly.
that in Vegas ever.
No, no, you don't. Or wherever it's
Yeah.
grown, where it's,
Yeah,
exactly.
this was
And then
like
what
right
else were you
off the
saying?
tree. It was amazing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how it's meant to be, right?
Yeah.
So our soil.
Yeah, so you were saying the other incidences. So yeah, we're up against this is a real stat, about 1,000 times more toxic environment than the human species has lived in ever. And that's air quality and water quality. I was just in Mexico City over the weekend, and because we needed to make a stopover, we didn't have a direct flight and to here in Colombia, and they air quality reminded me why I hadn't been back in years. And
Oh.
I thought, wow, okay, yeah. And it also is why I'll never go to Beijing. It's just
Oof.
it's so.
Yeah.
I mean, and we saw that during the Olympics then. Yeah, I mean, so that's a big part, is going back to that phrase, minerals play offense and defense. What I mean by defense is they actually electrostatically, is the biggest word I promise to use on the podcast.
Good one.
Electrostatically defend against heavy metals. So if you've ever seen the movie 300, where they go shields up and they defend against all these arrows falling on them, like thousands and thousands of arrows falling on these 300 men, then what you're seeing is the same thing happening at a cellular level with minerals. They're actually defending against heavy metals. And when you can sort of have that magneto effect, then you don't absorb and accumulate heavy metals at the same rate as if you had mineral deficiencies that were gaping. So yeah, it's a lot like just not having gates around like a community that has a lot of crime around it. Like just the intruders just come in and stay.
Yeah.
Speaking of metals, because metals are elements, and even like magnesium is a metal. I got this question from a client the other day. I was like, good, thoughtful question. He was like, why am I taking magnesium if we're trying to get metals out? Can you explain for someone that may have that question pop up in their mind?
Yeah.
Heavy metals, toxic metals versus the helpful minerals.
Absolutely. So magnesium in general, one, I'll just say we did a clinical trial on a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial, so the gold standard on our magnesium supplement, because it basically is it's the same exact technology that I use for all of our other mineral products. And we did a sleep trial on that. And what we can say unequivocally is we have a supplement there that induces sleep, more deep sleep, more REM sleep, and virtually every other sleep metric better than anything else in the market. And that's also true for our chromium and anything else, like in terms of effectiveness. Because why? Because it's absorbed well, and because the particle size is so different, because it's stable. And I chose to do it on magnesium, to answer your question in a roundabout way, because magnesium is, I believe, the most important thing to supplement. And we are a complex combination of elements, right? Some of those are metals. And magnesium does more things in the body than any other element I'm aware of. We used to think it only did like 300. And the latest research shows that it does over 3,000. So
wow.
yeah.
Kind of
So think
important.
about that. So you have 3,000 systems in your body that either are working well or aren't working well. And you can be deficient hour by hour. I can tell you, after being on a 5-hour flight last night, I could feel that I needed to take some. So I took some during the flight, and my feet stopped having the sort of like micro cramps that sort of feel like ants. It's not a full-on cramp or anything, but it's just enough to keep you from falling asleep or staying asleep. And I'm lucky in that I know for a fact that what it is and what will cause it and how to make it go away in a couple minutes. So I travel with our liquid on flights all the time. When I'm at places like Burning Man, I have it on me in case someone has a panic attack because they took too many fun party drugs. We also have upgraded mood, which has that and a few other elements in it that are hyper absorbed and very quick, so it can calm you down in a matter of like a few minutes. It's also great for PMS and like cramps and things like that. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, endless.
I need
but
some of
things we
that.
may not even be feeling. I think that's a big problem. People don't always have symptoms that feel directly correlated to. Can you talk to us about the size? The nanoparticle is really what makes this magical, because a lot of people are taking electrolytes, but the question is, what kind of electrolyte? Is your body even using it? Like, hopefully we're not taking something with sugar in it, but that's not the only issue here.
100%. So the particle size is very, very important, I realized. And I started by thinking about how the body looks at digestion. So what I want to tell you as you're listening to this is that before, as a listener, if we could bring you on the show right now and you could say, well, Barton, what about this form of magnesium? What I realized is that is when I said regurgitation earlier, that's what I meant. So you have a lot of smart people. You can have like Mark Hyman, for example, who is someone I've met and become friends with. Mark doesn't know anything about minerals, and neither does like almost everyone in the space that otherwise is like brilliant, right? And awesome. And I say that because the particle size is something that chemical engineers would understand. And what's being taught is a lot of like nutritionists and functional medicine doctors that they don't understand anything. Like, you just don't take those advanced classes for you to be able to really understand something like this. And you're sure as hell not going to study it on your own. It's just way too complicated. And then the other part of it is when, people like my good friend Sean Wells, who's developed more supplements than anyone alive, he used our magnesium product after like telling people for years, we'll take this form of magnesium for sleep and this for cramps. All of that is a chemist looking at an end product. If you think of a industrial process, the thing that it produces, the baby, so to speak, at the end, is just an option that's sitting on a shelf. And someone goes, well, I've heard that this one is better for sleep and this one is better for muscles. And what I realized when I was studying how the body really absorbs nutrients is that's not how it works when we get it from food. So when we get these nutrients from food, it's completely different, right? So the body doesn't go, all right, so, Lauren, I know you just ate a burger or a salad or whatever that has magnesium in it, but it doesn't have this form of magnesium that is the only that crosses the blood-brain barrier. So sorry, your brain's not going to work for a week. Like, we would all be in trouble if it actually worked that way.
Yeah.
That's what I
always
say.
Wondered that. Yeah.
We would all be in trouble. We would all be dead years ago we would have never been born, frankly, if that's how it worked. So it's laughable to me for people to go like, oh, you need all these forms, and it's like, no, you don't. It's clearly not how it works. And beyond that, beyond like the clinical trial, I've seen deficiencies, like thousands of hair tests every year, when people are deficient in taking the quote unquote best products from the best brands. And that's really what got me on the path 12 years ago, is that we did a hair analysis for myself, my mom. We looked at results. Initially, I was very excited because we finally I realized it was a very actionable test, because you could see, if my fingers, if you guys are watching this on video, if these were like deficiencies and like you need to be up here, but you're down here, so to speak, on a bar graph, we have examples on the website of what a test looks like, then the only way to improve your levels is actually to absorb enough to reverse the deficiency and therefore move the level on the next test, right? So the issue became when you have a chronic condition or when you're just chronically fatigued, which pretty much everyone is, thanks to EMF and Wi-Fi and all the other things that we mentioned. Not enough sun. We're the first civilization that doesn't actually worship the sun in one way or another. Like we're touring Mayan architecture and things. They worship, the Aztecs worship, the Egyptians were, and we're like, yeah,
We
the
hide
sun.
from
We
it.
should put cream on our bodies and never go outside and
Don't
fill
go
our
out.
lives with blue light. Turns out blue light was something from MK Ultra, which is a government program that you can look up very easily. This is just like common knowledge. It's just not commonly like known, but it's available. So with with magnesium, you have to have it to put someone into sleep, and with all minerals, the form actually doesn't matter if you're using our process. We can take any pure form of any element, put it through our process, make a plasma that your body interprets just like digested food, and be able to get that into the bloodstream and circulate that through the body. And voila, your deficiencies greatly improve. And then of course you're living your life, and then you get a bunch of more energy, and then you start a new business, or you move across the country, or you do, whatever. So then you retest in 3 months and you have different things to work on, different dosages of different things. Now you don't need this thing, but you need this. But you feel more energized, and issues like thyroidism, hypothyroidism, or adrenal fatigue, all of these are based in we focus a lot on the endocrine system, because I believe that when you get that healthy, the body can self-regulate, and when it's not healthy, it really can't. But our body is a battery. There's a great book called The Body Electric, and it just goes into depth in a couple of these areas that I'm talking about, and really just kind of confirms that we have to have electrical charges in the body, and those are elements. And the reason why we eat food to begin with, besides it tastes good, is because we have to get those nutrients. And part of the reason why people are so fat and getting more and more unhealthy is because they're trying to get nutrients. It's really not their fault in a lot of cases. Well, one, we're being hijacked by the food industry when they're putting in all the different things they are. So many examples I could give there, but the thing with our food being so impoverished from a nutrient standpoint is that your body remembers that you're supposed to have potassium from sweet potatoes, but then you eat the sweet potato and you have to eat 30% more to get that same nutrient, or 40%, and no one's really doing that. So we're walking around shells of ourselves, and it's reflected in hormone levels that have continuously dipped and declined, especially in testosterone for women and men. And I say women first because women don't think about testosterone very often. Most, by and large, right? It's thought of as this male hormone. And yet when we want our sovereignty back, for any gender, we have to have that hormone. We have to have that hormone to build muscle that's going to give us the longevity. We have to have that hormone to protect us against brain aging, against bone loss. I mean, there's so many different things. And those hormones are completely dependent on the elements that you're taking in. And that's why our grandfathers and grandmothers' generations were so much stronger, so much more fit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hormonal issues, so important. A funny story. I saw Jim Gaffigan, the comedian, on Instagram over the weekend. He posted this reel, I guess, from one of his stand-ups, and he's like, I can't stop eating. I haven't been hungry in 12 years. I can say, oh, I'm full, and then I'm going to go eat some cheese. Like, he was kind of making a joke about, but that's how most Americans are. They're just like constantly eating, like never truly hungry. And I think it is kind of what you said, like our bodies are looking for those nutrients and we're not getting them. So we're never satisfied. And then it's hijacked by all the chemicals and the additives and other stuff in there. But
Bliss point foods, where you're like, well, I'm not hungry, but this bar that is salt, fat, acid, sweet, is just like, looking at me. It's calling my name, you know, it's like,
looking at me.
you know, and you're like, well, I clearly like something, and that's usually my cue to go outside and get some sunlight, because
Oh.
we're supposed to be getting a lot of electrons, which is what our food breaks down to at the end of the day, and what we do with our nanoparticle process. So I was able to co-develop that as a chemical engineer after a lot of failed attempts with a couple different manufacturers. And what we have is really unique, and yet we're still only supposed to get about a third of our nutrition from food per day. About a third. The other third is light. The other third is grounding. So if you're not grounding and you haven't gotten any sunlight today, here's your reminder. So like, you know, ladies, go out in your sports bras, guys, take your shirts off, like get as much sun, as much skin as possible. Sunburn
Just
is
go
actually a
streaking.
sign that you're not getting enough sun often enough. Now, obviously you don't want to go out for 2 hours straight in that, if you haven't been out for, you know, if you haven't worked your way up. But there's just no chance you're going to have the amount of energy you could have by just like eating well and not being in the sun enough.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
doesn't mean you have to have it on your face. It doesn't mean you have to have it, you know, on delicate parts of your, but you know, your back, your chest, your abs, your legs, all these. And if all of that is, if like only your like a little bit of your torso is showing to the sun and you're in like leggings or something, yeah, like good luck. It's just not gonna, it's not. And so it's something I'm pretty concerned about for people, because fashion drives so much, right? And yet,
oh, the sunglasses before you even walk out the door, that one kills me. The fashion over the light nutrients. For what purpose?
yeah,
Why did that become so trendy?
I used to
we're
do
just
that.
told that, and we don't second guess it, right? And then we're constantly reinforced with images from Vogue that this is how to do it, and it's like, oh, it's like, gotta complete the outfit. And it's like, you know what completes the outfit is like being joyfully happy because you're so full of energy.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah. I love that one.
I take the
I love
energy.
that.
I take the energy.
Yeah, we are a
Yeah.
team no sunglasses, though I use them like early evening if I'm trying to wind
Sure.
down, you know,
Yeah.
but not before I go outside. Heck no.
Or if you're driving the car for hours, it's different. You know, light
Yeah.
coming through like plexiglass is totally different, but you know,
Yeah.
that changes it. But
Yeah.
I was
if you're
telling my
squinting.
fiance that today again. I was like, hey, yeah, like she's like, where are my sunglasses? Like, well, it's not even noon yet, so don't worry about it.
You're
Let's
like, I
go.
threw them away.
Yeah.
Go find them.
And then
Yeah.
people that don't wear polarized glasses, when they do finally, if they're like on the water fishing for hours, like you need polarized glasses. Otherwise, yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about mineral depleted water? Because a lot of people are drinking bottled water, plastic, a whole other issue. But then if we do invest in a high quality filtration system, a lot of us are taking the minerals out. So this has left people quite frustrated with, how do I get clean water without the heavy metals, fluoride, chlorine, but get my electrolytes?
Yeah, great question. So we have something called upgraded iodine that I put in all my water to kill any bacteria. And it's high dose iodine. It has almost no taste, and it's not viscous like a lot of iodines. And then I put our trace minerals in, because when I'm at home, I have a RO system that fills and leads to a hydrant machine. And that still has absolutely no minerals in it when it's done. The water is completely clean and it has no charge to it, which means it's also completely unalive. And so I'll put a big pitcher, like a day's worth of water, or at least a half day. And then I'll put sea salt in it, and I'll put quite a few different minerals based on my hair analysis. And for her, she'll have her own pitcher next to it, and that's hers. And so we're able to, because we also need things like copper, and some of these are going to be, you can just take it once a day and you're going to be good. Other things, I mean, ideally, you're going to be getting these nutrients throughout the day, because you're burning magnesium, you're burning copper to make energy, especially post-COVID. Yeah. So, yeah. You know, a lot of people have copper deficiencies. Way too many people have too much iron in their body, which actually leads to anger. And so you see a lot of people that have gone carnivore for a year, and their personality has actually changed, and they're a little more edgy, and they're a little more aggressive, and they're a little, and that's too much iron. And that used to be okay. If you're eating a bunch of organ meats, that might be okay. But they almost certainly still have more iron than they used to have, which is, I mean, it's like you could think of it as archaic masculine, like, it's just not, it's not good. Zinc is also, like copper, I would say, is feminine because it controls estrogen in the body. Zinc is masculine because it influences progesterone and testosterone. Boron is also testosterone. And you see this both in men and women, how it can shift their behavior, and also reverse insomnia and things like that. Like my fiance, when we met, she's like, "Oh yeah, I've had insomnia for my whole life. I was in New York, you know, grew up in New York City, and within probably like 10 days or less, she just has the rest. I mean, ever since, like, not had an issue. She sleeps harder than I do now, which is crazy. So yeah,
With minerals.
yeah,
Yeah. And less EMFs, not being in New York.
with minerals specifically, yeah, upgraded magnesium. But even when she was living in Miami, she was still having these issues, right? And it's also, it becomes your habit and your pattern and what you expect, and then you develop coping mechanisms. So people are, they're doing CBD, they're smoking weed, they're drinking, they're trying to become unconscious. All of these are bad options, right? All of those three. But becoming unconscious is like a key part to, you know, like sleeping well. It's just the least important part, really, because we all know, yeah, there's such a difference between sleep and sleeping well, being unconscious and sleeping well. So that's why, like in the clinical trial, we boosted deep sleep 250% at the high in only 14 nights. So if you're at an hour, we did 2.5 hours, for example. And REM sleep went up 160% for someone in the clinical trial. And by the way, we've seen 8x improvements in a week for other people outside the clinical trial. So it is the best on the market. There's no question about that. We're just busy making it a household brand. And we've now repackaged that dose, which was 4 capsules, into something called 8-hour sleep. And so people can check that out on the pretty formulas too. Yeah. So it's a bigger bottle. It's like twice the dose. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how we personalize all of this, because I'm assuming we shouldn't just take, you know, everyone should take the same electrolyte and call it a day. So you have the hair tissue mineral analysis.
Right.
So tell us a little bit more about like what we're looking at with mineral levels and then the ratios. And I'm curious, is like one of those more important than the other?
Ratios are, I would say, incredibly important. And there's a few ratios that we look at. There's 7 that are incredibly important in the body. And they figured this out a long time before we came along as a company. But what we've done then is expanded it and gone very deep into the understanding of ratios and teaching that to people, and then having products that absorb really well to reverse it. So I would say it's one part understanding what ratios to look at, what they mean, which we cover all of that in a consultation over the phone or Zoom. And that helps with things like blood sugar issues, weight gain, poor sleep, hair falling out, constipation, headaches, migraines, hormone issues. Honestly, anything else. It's all
maybe
affected.
can we look at the different ratios?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
so calcium and phosphorus, like what could you learn from this ratio?
So that is essentially a thyroid and metabolism ratio. So when you have that ratio at an ideal level, your metabolism is just going to function a lot better. And that usually goes hand in hand with calcium to potassium, which is, you know, more pure thyroid ratio. And you see that people, just like that example I gave with an aneurysm with in the case of my mom, having way too much calcium and way too little magnesium, and unfortunately supplementing religiously calcium every day, 3 times a day, 1,000 milligrams or something, vitamin D, which drives up calcium and pushes magnesium out, and actually can cause cell death when you hold that calcium channel open. All of these issues, they stack and stack and stack and stack. Unfortunately, these things work in opposite. So calcium pushes out potassium. So the more calcium you have, the worse that ratio is, the worse thyroid function you have, the worse your metabolism becomes, the more sluggish you become mentally, physically, emotionally, all of these things. So yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And
what about
magnesium
sodium?
Magnesium helps reverse that as well. So magnesium to calcium is
Okay.
a blood sugar ratio, and that helps reverse that issue that we just talked about.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And what
if
about
this is a lot for
sodium?
people, we cover
seems-
this in the consultation.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I know this
Yeah.
gets so personal.
Mhm.
I guess just
And
one
then
other one that seems really
yeah.
important, the sodium and potassium, because I think there's a
Sure.
lot of confusion around like, oh, if you're eating healthy, you're not getting enough sodium. So then people are dumping in something like LMNT,
Yeah.
electrolytes, which is a ton of sodium.
So much. Yeah.
What do you
Yeah,
like? What are
so
you really seeing with sodium and potassium? Are people actually deficient in sodium? What's going
yes,
on
a
there?
lot of people are.
Okay.
This is a case-by-case thing, so don't take this as a specific
This
health
is
or
not medical
medical
advice.
advice. And yet, plenty of people, what I can say is that most people that are eating a otherwise very clean diet aren't getting enough high quality salt. Now, when you look at something like LMNT, that's still not high quality salt. That's just like lab grade salt. That's just sodium chloride, like
Right.
NaCl. So that is something to think about too. And then, yeah, there should be trace minerals along with that. And then there should be some magnesium, there should be some potassium. So we put that in upgraded charge, for example. It's this sort of limeade flavored thing. It's a liquid. You can add it to your water. And that reverses brain fog pretty quickly for a lot of people if they're deficient in sodium. And again, with all these minerals, maybe you weren't deficient yesterday or early this morning, but you are right now after this podcast. Your brain's been working. That feeling of like, I really need a break, is your body running out of nutrients, essentially. It's running out of choline, it's running out of sodium, potassium, magnesium. It's running out a whole host of trace minerals that are, anywhere from 72 to 90. And it's less about how many of these things we have, and more about, so it's less about like, oh, my trace mineral says it has 90. There's no way to actually count batch to batch every single one, like per product. It's going to have some deviation because it's coming from the earth, right? What really matters is the absorption, right? So same thing with the magnesium. If you guys are watching this visually, as a listener, so your red blood cell is like, let's say this size. The size of the mineral particles we're talking about and all the other products we've ever tested are like 8 times larger, at least 5 times larger than that red blood cell. So that means that your digestive system has to be functioning very, very well. And as we know at the beginning of the show, we talked about all the reasons why that isn't happening for almost all of us. Low stomach acid, worms, parasites, you name it, leaky gut. I mean, it's a fun, choose your own adventure of why it's not working. But I can tell you it's not. So, and there's plenty of work to be done there for sure. And I mean, we even offer some nutritional coaching if people want to go deeper with us beyond this hair test thing and that. But place I believe to start, the biggest point of leverage and the reason why, like Lauren, your first question on like, why did I choose this area of minerals, is we're elemental beings. And when we get this right, all the other biohacks, red light, etc., go a lot better. But when you're trying to charge a battery that's dead, does it charge? No,
Yeah.
like when you put electricity in that lithium battery that's quote unquote rechargeable, but it's no longer charging, what happened? Well, it has no lithium, which is also something, side note, that we put in upgraded mood, which helps people modulate their anxiety. And how does it do that? The body has more energy, and you can certainly hurdle and overcome issues that life gives you. And when you're at a lower energy state, you just can't, which is like, what is it? Richard Dawkins? No, David Hawkins, like the power versus force, that scale that he talks about and a lot of other brilliant people talk about, that scale is totally energy dependent. And when we can get our energy up, people will be like, oh, your skin looks great. Well, that's just a reflection of your internal state, right? And how much energy you have, which you both have great skin because you're doing all the things. And
Doing all the things.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Trying. Can you have too much lithium?
Yes. With anything, you can have an imbalance. You can have too much calcium. You could have too much phosphorus, although almost no one does. There's so many different things. I find that people, for example, work really well with magnesium, doing about 5 milligrams per pound body weight. So, and second thought, when you absorb 5 times more, like you do with hours, like 8 hours sleep or upgraded magnesium or the upgraded cramp and migraine relief, which is insane. It's a lot of people's favorite product.
More magnesium, I guess.
Then you don't need as much on that scale of 5 milligrams per pound. So I'm 195, call it 200, and which is like, for other listeners, it's like 86, 87 kilos. Then when if you're doing like 5 milligrams, it comes out to about 1,000 milligrams for a 200-pound person, 500 for a 100-pound person. And yet, if you just did a CrossFit workout, are you going to need more than that? Yeah, you will. If you just did 5 meetings back to back and presented, a huge presentation that you've prepared for weeks and you're already very stressed about, will you need more than that? Yes. If you had a very calm day and you sat in Shavasana for hours, you probably need less. You won't need as much. So yeah.
Especially if it was on the earth and in the sunshine, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great point you brought up, because people are very confused about electrolytes. Like, how much am I supposed to have? And yes, you covered some kind of basic requirements. It depends on your stress, your activity, sweating, all the things.
Well, that's why you say test, don't guess as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we trademarked that phrase, actually.
That's so cool. I didn't know
I let other people use it. Yeah.
It's a great phrase. So good.
Yeah.
It's been flying around the industry forever. That's really cool. I mean, there's just too much confusion with supplements, and we have to take a bio-individualized approach, which is why I love your site, all the different types of isolated, but then also the bundles. But we want to do the hair test to determine what our personal ratios are. So anything more you can tell to our audience about how to get this test and what to expect from it?
Sure. There's a foundational kit too on our website that is like 4 products plus the hair test, and you can do it before and after also if you want.
Cool.
And that I really encourage people to, if you're thinking about doing this, do it before and after. Follow the protocol that gets prescribed, and that some of that's going to be foods as well, and some of that is even supplements we don't sell, right? And it will be like, hey, you really need this product because of this thing that you told me that you're having an issue with. So it's not just like reading off of someone's chart and going, all right, you're deficient in these things, take these things, and same amount for everyone. No, not at all. Because that's just not effectual. And we're about doing well by doing well as a company, and we donate to a lot of different things, including charity water, and helping just so many different things, trafficking issues, and so many different things. But we're about doing well for people, and the last thing that I want to do is give them a prescription that's the same as everyone else. So our nutritionists are incredible. They have to be able to teach me something about hair testing, and then also go through our course, and also be kind and just loving, great people, in addition to being brilliant. you know, they have to be helpful. So I would say it's the first time people have been listened to in their health, because if they haven't had a functional medicine experience, then they've only done the allopathic, go to their doctor, drive across town, wait 2 hours, get you know, be told, all right, come back in a week, I'll tell you what you actually need, and then either pay out of pocket a lot. And then it's like 3 weeks before you've even had any recommendation, versus go to a site, you don't need permission, order the test, you know, it's how it should be. And so we're trying to do our best to democratize wellness also. And that's a very eye-opening conversation, I would say. It was for me the first time I had one. I got very lucky. I found someone that really knew hair testing a long time ago. And yeah, we have a course for practitioners too.
Oh,
awesome. We will definitely put that
that's
in the
cool.
show notes. And your blog is
Yeah.
very dense, very fleshed out, so you can learn so much just from the
Oh my
blog
God,
alone.
yeah. Thank you. Our blog, we do 3 to 4 articles a week, and we have for a couple years. And before that, we did like at least 1 a week, and we've had the company for like 9 years. So,
And your book is coming out
mhm.
in a couple months?
Yeah, the book's well, it'll be done, and then it'll be to the publisher, and we'll see how long that takes. I'm not
Okay.
sure exactly.
All
I wish I
stand by,
but
everyone. Stand by.
it's around this connection of how everything we just talked about also becomes personality, and what to do about it in our unique
Very cool.
lens of looking at things. So yeah, we have that. We have nutritional coaching if people have like struggled and they need that ongoing support too. So we try to just get people well, and then we work with, you know, people like yourselves that can help spread the word. And I think it's my envisioning of how to grow this and help a lot of people is really through partnerships. I like to like taking a humanitarian approach is really kind of our goal and focus in growing. So yeah,
Awesome.
there's many different angles
Well,
as we can work on.
yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
thank you so much for everything you're doing. And hopefully everyone in the audience learned a lot bit more about minerals today. So we'll share all the
Yeah.
resources in the show notes so they can check out the testing. I think that before and after kit is a great offering. What's the timeline of when you would do the before, take the minerals, and then retest?
90 days. Yeah,
Cool.
that's
Okay.
what we recommend. Yeah. Mhm.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go check that out.
And
For
if you like,
retest.
if you like don't get to it and it's an extra couple weeks, it's okay. It's not, but that's the ideal is about 2 to 3 months really is anywhere in that window is fine, but you have it, and that way you can do it whenever you want. You can do it at home. Nay, sorry, I don't know if I answered your question. Just to like tell us more about like how to do it. I think it's something I didn't fully tap in. And all the instructions are there. There's a QR code, there's a video. You can take it to whoever cuts your hair and they can do it. You can even send in fingernails and toenails that aren't, you know, treated in any way.
Oh, wow.
If you dye
that's
your,
fun.
yeah.
I need to clip mine right now. So here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
you
I recommend having someone else cut your hair. I tried to do it
Totally.
myself and I didn't do the
It's-
best job.
Totally. Yeah.
I had my husband do it the next time and it was much better.
Yeah, totally. And you take it from a
Yeah.
bunch of different places close to the scalp.
Yeah.
And if you try to like take it all at once, you know, that's not a good idea, but you just take it from a few different places. And look, I mean, we've done thousands of these. So if it seems like a challenge, like so is like doing a stool test or anything the first time you do it. And then after you've done it once, you're like, this is not a big deal. So
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Easier
if
than a
you're-
blood test or a stool test,
Oh
definitely.
yeah, you can do it at home. You can all these things. So
Yeah.
No gross fluids,
Awesome.
just your hair.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Not
just
too bad.
hair. And then
Great.
for anyone that has underarm or pubic hair, you can do it there. If you I've compared like beard hair to scalp hair to fingernail. Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to do it. Yeah.
Would it be
Very
better
cool.
to get a combination, different areas and nails?
No, you only want to stick to one.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to stick to one. So but nape of the neck is the best if you can do that, if you dyed your
Okay.
hair, it's okay. It only skews a couple different things depending on the color. So boron, for example, which is something we don't test for anymore anyway, would be high if your hair is, if you have a dark hair color. And you know, if it's light, then it's something else. But the thing is like 10 doesn't matter much. We won't focus on your level of 10 in the body. There's like 90 other things that are more important than that. So
Okay.
it's not going to skew your magnesium level. So, or your other issues that are like key areas of focus. So
yeah, good to know.
yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
And you take
We're
it
all
from the root.
natural here, so
Yeah.
I'm ready
Yeah.
to snip. Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
So
Yeah.
thank you
Great.
so much, Barton, for sharing all this with you. And it would be awesome if we did some testing and brought you back on and we could do a more
Sure.
thorough analysis. That would be really fun. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
thanks for hanging out with us today.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having
Before
me.
we, it's a long time coming. I'm chasing you around for a minute.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks.
Before we
Well,
let you go, we want to ask one final piece of advice, something our audience can start doing today to optimize their health. What would it be?
let's see. So many like easy hacks. You could turn your Wi-Fi off at night. You could, sleep in a controlled environment, as cool as you can stand it, basically. All these things. And then honestly, the thing that I think is the most important is taking a magnesium supplement like ours that you're actually going to absorb, taking enough of it, knowing your levels. These are really the most important things. And getting some sunlight like we talked about also. Doesn't have to be on your face. You can like wear a hat or whatever. But doing that daily and see and try to do it grounded too, if you can. Even if it's 15 minutes twice a day, like go out on your break. You need the break. You're not a computer. You're not meant to work steadily for 9 hours. You'll get more done and you'll do better work by taking these sorts of breaks anyway, and you'll have more energy and it'll be a lot more fun.
Totally agree.
That is always the best recharge. I take my minerals, I have my
upgraded memory.
and then I go outside. Batteries recharged.
I'm gonna do a little mental recharge here. So
I'm about to take some more right now. So
yay. All right, everyone, go get outside, take a little break. Thank you so much, Barton, for all that you're doing and for spending your time with us today.
No, thank you guys. Thank you both. I look forward to chatting again soon.
More to come, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time.